Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is the New Mutants Classic Volume 2, and this review is on the New Mutants issue number 14. Here we have a pretty great cover. This is Sim beating the crap out of the New Mutants. Pretty nice. And then, this is the final chapter in my character Origins Magik. And essentially, what this story is the introduction of Illyana as a member of the New Mutants. So we get some recap. She's basically recapping what occurred during the Magik miniseries and sort of her conflicts with it. She's kind of, she feels alone and apart, obviously. She could potentially be, you know, the damnation of the world as the Dark Child. And she's also, you know, she was just 7 years old a while back, and now she's 15, so within 1 year. It's a huge change, right, in her life. So it starts snowing, and the New Mutants come out. This is basically the ending of Magik miniseries number 4. You get a retelling, and, you know, Chris just does the typical Jim Shooter thing. He explains all the characters. There's Rain, there's Bobby DaCosta, there's Sam Guthrie, and here's Amara, now the newest member of the New Mutants. And you got my favorite character, Danny Moonstar. And pretty cool, we get a really funny scene where Danny summons a palm tree to kind of cheer Amara up. She's a little wary, dealing with the snow and everything. And you get a pretty funny line. It's like, is this your doing? Oh, if you only know what happened under this tree. And Danny's like, okay, what? And she's like, ask Roberto. And Danny immediately gets pretty jealous and is like, I think I'll kill him first. You get, like, the one thing about the New Mutants that I really liked that Chris Claremont did is he wrote sort of romance and intrigue and just youthful drama better in the New Mutants than he did in the X-Men. It's not that the X-Men didn't have romance or love plots, but the New Mutants, I think, it did it in a more innocent way, and it's kind of entertaining and enjoyable when you read through it. So you got Illyana kind of commenting. Here's Professor Xavier. He's kind of trying to figure out why he can't mind probe Illyana, because Illyana has special magics that allow her to block Professor Xavier's mind probing abilities. So now they're kind of talking about it, and they're trying to figure out why Professor Xavier is so bummed out. Amara in the previous issue actually had a coming to terms with Professor Xavier, and she was kind of getting used to being with the New Mutants at Xavier's mansion. And she kind of tells the rest of the New Mutants that, oh, he misses his princess. And so the rest of them kind of come up with a plan. We're like, hey, why don't we throw a party for Professor Xavier to cheer him up? And they invite Illyana, and she joins them, and they're going to go over and meet Stevie. And you get this silhouette in the background. And all of you who read the Magik miniseries know who this dude is. So they go over, and you get some interesting side plots here. There's Doug. He's looking for Kitty Pryde. He eventually becomes a member of the New Mutants, too. But for now, the New Mutants go off and go shopping. And they meet some other people. You get some funny little dialogue between Amara and all the New York kids that are in this. So really interesting. Professor Xavier's kind of trying to figure out what happened to Magik. And then he realizes Sim has invaded the mansion. And when he tries to use his mind probe on him, Sim just bitch slaps him and takes him out. The New Mutants are kind of like trying to wonder what happened to Professor Xavier because they called and he didn't answer. Illyana volunteers to go inside and take a look around. And when she's in there, she kind of realizes that you know, something is very, very wrong. And at this point, she kind of realizes that that she probably should have asked for the rest of the New Mutants to join her, but too late. Sim grabs her, and interestingly enough, Illyana, even though she defeated Sim in the Magik miniseries, she's actually caught so off guard that it kind of shocks her to see him in their world. So much so that she accidentally uses her stepping disc, or light circle in this case. I guess Chris Claremont decided to change the name of it, and transports the New Mutants to freaking limbo. Very interesting right here. This is actually what occurred in Magik number 3, but what's interesting is there's a bit of a plot hole here, because in Magik number 3, the New Mutants ran over the young Illyana in her bed. In this case, they're outside of the car clearly when they teleport, and clearly Illyana's already on the ground without her bed, right? So a bit of a plot hole here. Not gonna lie, I think Chris probably forgot about that. To be fair, Louise Simonson also forgot about that, and she probably need to catch that. Or it might have also been that Sal Buscema, when he was, because this is the Marvel method, so Sal draws these before Chris adds dialogue. So it might be that Sal forgot all about that too. Anyhow, they get transported to where Illyana's at, and the New Mutants jump into action to try to take out Sim. But it turns out Sim is much, much more powerful than them. He totally bats away Sam Guthrie. He's not even remotely affected by Bobby Acosta, Sunspot, and Cannonball. And he smacks Bobby right out the freaking building. Rain tries to jump him, but she's easily no match either. The one who really has the most effect is Danny, and she uses her power to summon an image of Belasco, and that really shocks Sim out. And interestingly enough, in Sim's Great Fear, Belasco transforms into Darkchild, which looks very similar to Illyana. And Stevie Hunter notices this too. So Stevie grabs Illyana and makes a run for it. Amara jumps into action and uses her power as magma to drop a bunch of lava onto Sim. And she kind of celebrates with Danny, like, oh, look, teamwork worked out. And then when she turns around, Sim basically was like, bitch, about to get smacked. And so Stevie and Illyana are making a run for it. And at this time, Stevie's kind of talking to herself. So Stevie's an interesting character. She was kind of created by Chris Claremont as a sort of human companion to the X-Men and the New Mutants. She mainly spends a lot of time with Kitty Pryde and the New Mutants. But she has a long-standing injury to her knees. And so when she's trying to hobble and carry Illyana away, her knee injury flares up and she's unable to carry Illyana to safety. Sim arrives, but this is just in time for Illyana to turn on her magic. And very cool, she kind of baits Sim. So she uses magic, but she doesn't use her full power because she wants him to get close. At that point, she summons up her soul sword. And at this point, Sim pretty much gives up the fight and runs away. She banishes him back into limbo, and then she has to cast a spell on Stevie to kind of erase her memories. The X-Men show up, and very interesting to see Sal Buscema draw the X-Men, by the way. I actually kind of like the way he draws Rogue and Wolverine, and his Storm isn't bad either. Though I will say this, at this point, like, they had so many artists that draw in the X-Men, they probably had a good feel for the Chris Claremont era X-Men. So they all show up and they're like, what the fuck just happened? Why is there a volcano in the middle of the room? So very interesting. And then, you know, Illyana kind of broods and pouts in the corner till Xavier stands up and dances with them. And Illyana at this point realizes that Xavier has recovered his ability to walk. This is after the Brood Saga, so Xavier now has the ability to walk with his new body. And you get a pretty interesting ending right here. Kitty Pryde gets called outside by Doug, and Doug tells her that, hey, I'm going to the Massachusetts Academy. And for those of you who had been following the X-Men at that point, Kitty is absolutely terrified because that academy is run by the Hellfire Club, and the headmistress is the White Queen. So this leads into X-Men 180, which I will actually be reviewing later because X-Men 180 is the lead-up issue for the Uncanny X-Men's entry into the Secret Wars miniseries. So very, very cool. At this point, Magik is pretty much a member of the New Mutants, and she joins them on pretty much all of their adventures from here on out. She still crosses over with the X-Men, particularly in later 80s issues with working with her brother and some stuff, up until the 90s when she's killed off by, I don't know if it was Fabian Nicieza or Scott Lobdell. I think it's Scott Lobdell that kills off Illyana as Magik, the character. The current Magik is not actually the one in any of these series. It's some sort of clone made by Jonathan Hickman, which, you know, I could care less for, but just so people know, right? The one point I do want to make about the character and finishing this whole series is you see how, like, an innocent issue like this that kind of introduces her, right? If you were just reading the New Mutants, you really wouldn't get a feel for this character, why she's so gloomy and why she's so moody and where these powers come from. But through the development from her time in the Uncanny X-Men, the Magik miniseries, and her introduction into the New Mutants, she becomes a fully fleshed out character. And she really has some amazing additions to many tales with the New Mutants. I think a really great one is the New Mutants special where they go to Asgard. Illyana's fantastic in that miniseries. There's a bunch of other ones too. She's obviously a huge part of the Demon Bear saga. So really enjoyed doing this this series on Illyana, and also enjoyed going over the Magik miniseries, though it was a bit thick. And finishing off on the New Mutants, which is definitely an underrated series. Anyhow, that's the review. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. You're gonna have a lot of fun in this channel if you love old comics, manga, European comics, all that kind of stuff. And if you do subscribe, please hit the bell for notifications. And if you have any comments on Magik, the character, Illyana, Rasputin, or the New Mutants, Uncanny X-Men, Magik miniseries, leave them down below, and I will see you next time.